The Better Homing Projectiles plugin for Unreal Engine contains two classes, the BHP Projectile Movement component and the BHP Missile Movement component, which you can use to build your projectiles. Both are subclasses of the stock projectile movement component, so if you're familiar with that, you can get up and running in minutes. The plugin uses the proportional navigation algorithm to improve homing performance. This eliminates the circling that you often see with homing projectiles using the stock projectile movement component. With the plugin, you can home in on any point on an actor, not just at a component center. You can home in on any point in free space. Use this to set waypoints or to create laser-guided projectiles. You can use the optional collision avoidance to avoid obstacles en route to your target. You can choose to be notified when a projectile misses its target. Use this to detonate radial damage projectiles or notify your players when they've successfully dodged a missile. You can optionally inherit your shooter's velocity. The plugin improves the rotation, so missiles and bombs look much more realistic. This is the stock behavior, and this is the improved behavior whenever the rocket motor is not active. And this is the stock behavior, and this is the improved behavior when the rocket motor is active. With the plugin, you can predict the impact location between a projectile and its target, and you can choose whether or not to take the shooter's velocity into account. So this one does not take my velocity into account, so it doesn't move as I move. This one does take my velocity into account, so you can see it adjusts as I move around. The missile movement component includes a rocket motor, which applies thrust whenever it's not homing. So you can see that the dumbfire rockets here have a burn duration of 1 second, and then they turn off and continue on their trajectory. You can choose not to use it at all if you want and create guided bombs, which still use homing. And whenever you have a missile, you can choose whether homing continues after the motor burns out or not. So this one on the left does not continue homing after motor burnout. This one on the right does. And you'll find that intercepting evasive targets is very easy with the plugin. You can even intercept other missiles like this. That's all the new features. The next section is all about tuning the variables, so if you've already purchased the plugin, you may find this useful. The most important variable is the homing acceleration magnitude. This determines the projectile's overall homing strength. The proportional navigation gain determines how responsive a projectile is to its target's movements. The higher the gain, the more responsive it is, but the longer the path to the target. Can homing change speed determines if the homing acceleration is allowed to apply thrust to speed up or slow down on the way to the target. You can see on the left here, it does not apply any thrust because it is false. And on these two, it's true. The missile movement component manages that for you, so when the rocket's on, it's true. When it's off, it's false. And whenever can homing change speed is false, projectiles take large circular turns because they cannot slow down, and they're more likely to overshoot the target. When it's true, in an initially overshooting condition like this, the projectile is able to hit the brakes, slow down, and still hit the target. Now, understanding how the collision avoidance algorithm works can be very useful when you go to tune it, because a poorly tuned projectile may not behave as you expect. So the first thing the projectile does is perform a sphere trace along its velocity. If a potential collision is detected, line traces are performed at increasing angles from the velocity until no hit is returned. Then it performs a sphere trace in that direction to confirm that there is actually a clear path that the projectile can fit through. Adjust the collision avoidance trace angle to determine the maximum number of traces that can be performed. Adjust the sphere radius multiplier to determine how large of a space we look for. And adjust the trace distance factor to determine how far along the velocity vector we look for obstacles. And then the min trace distance can help you avoid situations like this where the projectile goes into a concave obstacle and gets stuck. The collision avoidance algorithm does not do any path finding. It's mostly intended to avoid simple convex obstacles, not concave obstacles like this, but I did include this variable min trace distance that you can use if you happen to have a lot of obstacles like this to try to avoid this situation. So in this case, the min trace distance is long enough that it will hit the back of the obstacle, the tunnel, and give it enough warning to go around. Okay, thank you for coming. If you have any questions, please visit the Discord server.